Hello, everybody. Ray Garner with Garner's Games here. Doing my second comic review of the week. This one. Iron Man, #1. Now, this book is brought to us by Spencer Arckman and Julius Ohta, I think it's how it's pronounced. And this is part 1 of the Stark-Roxas War. We're going to start this book off in upstate New York, outside of a Stark Industries, where there are people upset that they've been locked out of the factory. Once they're kind of threatening to kick down the gate and go to work anyway, the guards mutate into these, everybody's referring to them as Hulks. But in a few minutes when Iron Man shows up, he points out these are not Hulks. He shows up in this classic, I shouldn't say classic, it's the modern era, golden red outfit. But once he's defeated them and they leave, and that's the kind of thing, they just walk off. It's not like they're arrested or anything. Iron Man goes inside, and this is a facility that was building the Stark Sentinels during the Krakatoa storyline. Not one of Tony's more shining moments. He basically promises to get this facility up and running, not making artillery shells, which is what it's making right now. But right after he starts to take off, the suit fails. And he falls back down, and they have to call an ambulance for him. So we cut to him in the hospital. He's all busted up. It's many weeks later. He talks about how he's getting too old. Been in bed longer than usual. It's also taking longer to get back and at it again. He's got multiple stitches. Good compliment to the artist here, because I mean, as you can see here in this picture, he looks emaciated. Then he tries to figure out why his armor had that problem. But he runs out of time and trying to figure it out and goes to a board meeting at Stark Industries. Only to find out that a variety of different people, including AIM's Scientist Supreme, Dr. What is our name pronounced? Kinsey? She's part of the group that's trying to buy out Stark Industries and create a merger between AIM, Roxas, and Stark Industries. So we have Tony goes home. He's wearing the helmet, doing a bunch of research, just sitting around. Looks like a mattress thrown on a bunch of boxes at some warehouse somewhere. But as he's trying to figure it out, there's an explosion across town, so he takes off to go try to help on the fire. And as he's putting out the fire at a laundromat, a sensor says it's empty. These two guys show up. Tiger Shark, and I believe the other one is Flying Tiger. They fight Tony for a little bit, and they point out that they're streaming it. So they actually started a fire in the laundromat to help their viewership on their YouTube channel. It's kind of an interesting deal, modern era stuff. But they let it slip that the reason why Tony's having so much problems is this isn't his mystical armor. So magic is affecting his armor and jacking with it. So he goes to where he stored his mystical armor, and he runs back into our Hulk wannabes. He easily defeats them. And then Justine Hammer shows up. And Tony even points out that, she died back in Invincible Iron Man 527, which would be about 7 years ago. She even says, surely by now you're used to people coming back from the dead. He points out it's like not really something you want to get used to. And she basically points out that this isn't his warehouse, which he thought it was, because it's all part of the merger now. And she bought that so she could get the armor because she needed it to complete a new Iron Mangler. Or Monger, I'm sorry, not Mangler. And she's planning to mangle him, though. So anyway, fight ensues. We see, you know, the nanite technology where Stark basically turns his arms into giant guns, blasting away. But she points out that due to the mystical virus that's been put into his armor, she has control of it. She actually just says, armor drop. And the armor just falls. She turns off her suit, gets in her car, and she leaves. So we end with Tony basically spent too long in the hospital. He's neglected his company, his father's legacy, not just his own. Too long playing superhero. And more or less is saying he's coming back after him. But he's building a new set of armor, which based on the cogs and stuff like that, explains why we have the more steampunky looking Iron Man on the cover. So we're actually going to basically take Tony back to a more grittier, less super science era on his armor, which I always think Tony Stark works best when he's working from underneath. The, you know, super nanite stuff that became really cool looking in the MCU, I think really is getting overused in the comics, so I'm glad to see that they're taking this new direction with him. Fascinated to see where this goes. I think this book's pretty good. If you're an Iron Man fan, I think it's a nice jumping on point. If you ever wanted to be an Iron Man fan, it's, again, nice jumping on point. Outside of the reference to the Stark Sentinel, there's next to no references to the previous storylines. And the only reference other than that is that Justine Hammer was dead and now she's back. And that's all covered in one panel and one editor's, you know, notation. So, again, pretty good. Check it out and tell me what you think. Till next week.